Welcome to True Crime Pulse, where we delve into some of the most disturbing and perplexing crime cases in history. Today, we present a chilling narrative that begins with a seemingly consensual lifestyle choice but culminates in obsession, betrayal, and murder. This is the tragic case of Luis and Sarah Torino, a couple whose experimental exploration of a swinging lifestyle led to unimaginable violence. Luis Torino, a 45-year-old financial advisor, was known for his meticulous work ethic and magnetic charm. His professional acumen earned him a stellar reputation within the Providence, Rhode Island community, where he resided with his wife Sarah Torino, who was 44. Sarah was a beloved elementary school teacher, cherished by her students and colleagues for her warmth, kindness, and dedication. Together, the Torinos were admired by friends and neighbors, frequently hosting gatherings at their home. Their relationship appeared strong, their bond desirable, and their social circles wide. The couple had 2 children, the eldest of whom was 18-year-old Bethel Torino, a bright and independent college student majoring in psychology at a nearby community college. Bethel was particularly close to her parents, often spending weekends at home, enjoying their company. On the surface, the Torinos represented the ideal family, successful, close-knit, and content. However, beneath this idyllic exterior, Luis and Sarah were seeking something more. After years of marriage, they decided to inject some excitement into their relationship by exploring the swinging lifestyle. It was a decision that would alter their lives forever. For Luis and Sarah, the transition into this unconventional lifestyle was not made lightly. After careful deliberation, they concluded that it could strengthen their marriage and add a new dynamic to their relationship. They began to socialize with other couples in the Providence area who also engaged in partner swapping, cautiously exploring this new world. The Torinos' closest swinging partners were their friends Jack and Beth Kana, with whom they had exchanged partners on several prior occasions. The arrangement seemed mutually beneficial, with both couples enjoying the excitement and novelty it brought to their respective marriages. Just days before the tragic incident, Luis and Sarah were eagerly planning another meeting with the Kanas. Conversations between the 2 couples were filled with anticipation, and the Torinos appeared to be in high spirits as they prepared for their next encounter. Luis and Sarah were more than just partners in adventure, they were dreamers with grand plans for the future. Luis frequently spoke of retiring early, envisioning a life of travel and exploration. He had elaborate fantasies of whisking Sarah away to the world's most romantic cities, from the charming streets of Paris to the historic ruins of Rome and the bustling life of Tokyo. Sarah, meanwhile, harbored her dreams. Her deep affection for children inspired her to consider writing a children's book, a tale that, in her mind, might one day help young readers understand unconventional lifestyles, though framed in a manner appropriate for their age. She loved teaching and remained dedicated to her profession, but envisioned a time when she could focus on writing full-time. In the days leading up to their deaths, the couple was lively, optimistic, and deeply engrossed in discussions about their aspirations. They were looking forward to their next swing with the Canas, completely unaware that tragedy loomed ahead. On the morning of January 9, 2019, Maria Lopez, the Torinos' housekeeper, arrived at their Providence home as she did each week. Maria had worked for the family for years and had grown close to them. She greeted the family's cat, Marko Stefanovic, and began her usual routine, tidying up the living room before moving upstairs. As Maria approached the master bedroom, she immediately sensed that something was amiss. The door, typically closed, was slightly ajar. Feeling a growing unease, she softly knocked and called out to Luis and Sarah. No response came from the other side. Tentatively, Maria pushed the door open, and the scene that awaited her was one of sheer horror. Luis and Sarah Torino lay naked on their bed, their bodies brutally stabbed and their faces mutilated beyond recognition. Blood stained the once pristine sheets, and the room transformed into a macabre crime scene. Overcome with shock and fear, Maria stumbled back, her heart pounding as she struggled to comprehend the brutal scene before her. Gasping for breath, she fumbled for her phone and dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the operator. "Help, please, they are dead, so much blood," she cried in broken English, her terror evident. The 911 operator attempted to calm Maria, asking for the address. After giving the necessary details, Maria, unable to remain in the house, fled downstairs and out onto the street. She stood trembling, waiting for the authorities to arrive, as the image of the gruesome crime seared into her mind. Within minutes, the Providence Police Department arrived on the scene, launching an investigation into the grisly murders. The community, previously untouched by such violent crime, was plunged into shock. How could such a well-loved and seemingly happy couple meet such a fate? The police quickly ruled out a random attack, suspecting that the crime was intensely personal. As investigators pieced together the events leading up to Louis and Sarah's deaths, they delved into the couple's private lives. What emerged was a portrait of a marriage filled with hidden complexities and desires that may have triggered a deadly sequence of events. The Canas, the couple with whom the Torinos had planned their next rendezvous, became key persons of interest in the investigation. Had their involvement in the swinging lifestyle led to jealousy, betrayal, or even revenge? Was there someone else in their social circle who harbored darker intentions? The case would soon reveal shocking twists and turns, but for now, the murder of Louis and Sarah Torino remains a harrowing reminder of how even the most idyllic lives can unravel in the most unexpected and horrifying ways. Standing in the driveway, Maria trembled, tears streaming down her face. Concerned neighbors, noticing her distress, approached to ask what had happened. She tearfully recounted the horrifying discovery. By 8:45 a.m., the first police officers had arrived at the Torino residence, securing the scene as they began their investigation. They gently questioned Maria, who was still visibly shaken, as she described finding the bodies and her immediate reaction. After reassuring her, the officers escorted Maria to a neighbor's house to rest. The tragic news spread quickly. Local media, including the Providence Journal and TV stations like BRI, NBC 10, covered the story extensively. The community was shocked, saddened, and confused by the brutal deaths of Louis and Sarah Torino. On the morning of January 9, 2019, at 8:45 a.m., Providence police arrived on the scene. First responders secured the area, calling in detectives to further assess the crime. Detectives Mark Simmons and Lisa Chen, known for their thoroughness, were among the first to arrive. Inside the home, they were met with a horrific sight. Louis and Sarah lay naked on the bed, their bodies stabbed repeatedly, their faces mutilated beyond recognition. Blood stained the bed, walls, and floor, indicating an intense and violent struggle. Detective Simmons, a tall, calm figure, took charge, directing the forensic team to collect evidence, while Detective Chen meticulously photographed the chaotic scene. The murder weapon, a bloodied kitchen knife, was found near Louis' side of the bed and bagged for evidence, with hopes it would offer critical clues. The team collected fingerprints, DNA, and other possible evidence. Outside, the media gathered, with reporters ready to cover the tragedy. Meanwhile, detectives worked tirelessly, interviewing neighbors who described the Torinos as a happy, social couple. No one could comprehend how something so horrific could happen to them. As the forensic team combed through the house with advanced tools like luminol and fiber scanners, the detectives interviewed Maria, the housekeeper who had discovered the bodies. Though still in shock, Maria shared her morning routine in the chilling moment she found the couple. The detectives pressed on, determined to piece together the events that led to the Torinos' murders. Their first lead was Jack Conant, a 47-year-old bar owner. Jack, known locally for running a popular bar called Jack's Place, had a quiet, reserved demeanor but was described as introverted and prone to jealousy, traits that detectives would investigate further. Jack and Beth had an open arrangement with the Torinos, which made Jack a primary person of interest in the investigation. On the night of the murders, Jack had been working at his bar, where the police interviewed him on January 10, 2019, just a day after the bodies were found. Jack appeared calm, but spoke with a noticeable tension in his voice. Detective Simmons and Chen questioned him about his relationship with the Torinos and his whereabouts on January 8. Jack stated that he had been at his bar all night, a fact later confirmed by his employees and surveillance footage. Despite his alibi, the detectives pressed him about any possible conflicts or jealousy, given the intimate nature of their arrangement. Jack admitted to feeling uneasy about how often Beth slept with others, but he denied harboring any ill will toward Louis and Sarah. The detectives also asked if Beth had mentioned any recent plans to meet with the Torinos, but Jack insisted he had no idea anything was wrong. Though Jack maintained his innocence and expressed shock over the murders, the detectives noted his anxious body language and continued to scrutinize his statements. Beth, a 40-year-old shamanism professor at the Rhode Island School of Design, was the next to be questioned. Known for her dominant and charismatic personality, Beth was heavily involved in the couple's swinging lifestyle. On January 11th, 2 days after the bodies were discovered, she was interrogated by Simmons and Chen. Beth admitted to the partner-swapping arrangement with the Torinos and said she had been home alone grading papers on the night of the murders. Confident but defensive, she denied any issues with the couple, though she openly acknowledged her attraction to their daughter, Bethel. Her alibi, however, lacked corroboration, and her composure faltered when discussing her attraction to Bethel. Beth also downplayed any jealousy in her marriage, noting that they used shamanistic rituals to resolve conflicts. Despite her firm denial of involvement in the murders, the detectives were suspicious. Her strong personality, complex relationships, and lack of a solid alibi kept her under close scrutiny as the investigation progressed. Detectives believed there was more to uncover and remained focused on gathering further evidence to determine her true role in the case. The third suspect in the investigation was Bethel Torino, the 18-year-old daughter of Louis and Sarah Torino. A psychology major at a local community college, Bethel was known for her intelligence and independence, having always maintained a close relationship with her parents. However, she had recently become increasingly disturbed by their deepening involvement in the swinging lifestyle. On January 12, 2019, the police brought Bethel in for questioning. Detective Simmons and Detective Chin led the interrogation, focusing on her relationship with her parents and her feelings about their new lifestyle. Initially, Bethel had tried to be supportive, but she felt horrified when her parents suggested involving her to satisfy Beth Conant, who was sexually attracted to her. Her demeanor during questioning was a blend of anger and sorrow, as she expressed feelings of betrayal and dehumanization. She revealed a spreadsheet her father had created outlining ways she could please Beth during their planned encounter, further illustrating her distress. While she admitted to having arguments with her parents over their choices, she firmly denied any involvement in their deaths. The detectives took note of her emotional responses, recognizing the pain she felt from her parents' actions. They also inquired about her whereabouts on the night of January 8, 2019. Bethel claimed she had been studying at the local library until it closed at 10 p.m., after which she returned home and went to bed. Her alibi was partially confirmed by library staff who recalled seeing her there, but no one could verify her actions after she left. As the interrogation progressed, the detectives probed into her relationships with the Conants. Bethel expressed a strong dislike for Beth Conant, describing her as manipulative and overbearing. She recounted a recent unsettling encounter where Beth had barged in on her in the bathroom, stripped off her clothes, and asked, "Am I beautiful enough for you?" This incident left Bethel feeling uncomfortable and angry. Despite her heightened emotions during questioning, she consistently maintained her innocence, expressing her dreams of becoming a psychologist and helping others, an aspiration that starkly contrasted with the violent crime under investigation. The detectives remained cautious, aware that deep-seated emotions and familial tensions could provide powerful motives. They continued to investigate Bethel, meticulously analyzing her statements for any inconsistencies. As the events of January 8 remained shrouded in uncertainty, the detectives were determined to uncover the truth. On January 20, 2019, at 9 a.m., Detective Lisa Chin received an intriguing call about new evidence. It was a cold, snowy morning in Providence, and the detectives were eager for a breakthrough. A jogger running through a nearby park had stumbled upon something unusual, a blood-stained jacket partially hidden under a bush and covered in snow. Detectives Simmons and Chin quickly arrived at the scene, where the jacket was carefully bagged and sent to the forensics lab for analysis. After speaking with the jogger, who appeared calm yet shaken by his discovery, the detectives expressed their gratitude and assured him they would follow up on this new lead. Meanwhile, technicians at the forensics lab worked swiftly to examine the jacket. Traces of blood matching the DNA of Louis and Sarah Torino were discovered, marking a significant breakthrough in the investigation. Tucked inside one of the jacket pockets was a crumpled receipt from a local gas station, dated January 8, 2019, at 11:30 p.m., just hours before the murders. Detective Chin reviewed the gas station's surveillance footage, which revealed Bethel Torino purchasing gas and snacks that night, casting doubt on her alibi. The detectives realized they needed to bring her in for further questioning. When confronted with the new evidence, Bethel's demeanor shifted. She became defensive and agitated, insisting that she had merely gone for a drive to clear her mind and had no involvement in her parents' deaths. However, as the detectives pressed her for details, she struggled to maintain her story. Further investigation led them to the crime scene, where a set of footprints in the backyard matched the soles of Bethel's boots, establishing a direct link to the events of that night. Detective Simmons and Chin felt they were closing in on the truth. Every detail mattered, and they understood that the jacket, the receipt, and the footprints were critical pieces of a complex puzzle. The detectives were relentless, knowing that justice for Louis and Sarah Torino depended on their findings. By January 22, 2019, at 10 a.m., their confidence surged as they believed they had identified the murderer. After piecing together key evidence, including the blood-stained jacket and surveillance footage, they concluded that Bethel, the intelligent and independent 18-year-old daughter of Louis and Sarah Torino, was responsible for their deaths. While Bethel had once shared a close bond with her parents, she had become increasingly troubled by their interest in the swinging lifestyle. The situation escalated when she uncovered their plans to involve her in a way that horrified her, particularly their intentions regarding Beth Conant, who had expressed a sexual attraction to her. Bethel felt disgusted and betrayed, leading to a devastating confrontation on the night of January 8, 2019. In a moment of rage and desperation, she used a kitchen knife to fatally stab her parents as they slept, leaving the scene in a gruesome state that reflected her turmoil. The detectives meticulously reconstructed the series of events leading to the tragic incident. The receipt from the gas station contradicted her alibi by placing her out late that night, while footprints matching her boots were found at the crime scene, further implicating her. Bethel's increasingly defensive behavior during the second round of questioning only heightened their suspicions. On January 23, 2019, at 8 a.m., the police arrived at her home to make the arrest. Though Bethel was initially taken aback and resisted, she was ultimately taken into custody, read her rights, and charged with her parents' murders. The shocking nature of the arrests reverberated throughout the community, where Louis and Sarah were well-liked, making it difficult for many to accept that their daughter was the perpetrator. Friends and neighbors grappled with their disbelief and sorrow, struggling to comprehend how such a tragedy could unfold within their community. The victim's family faced the heart-wrenching reality of losing Louis and Sarah, now confronted with the knowledge that Bethel, once a beloved family member, was responsible for the heinous act. While the arrest offered some answers, it also raised questions about what could have driven her to commit such a crime. The trial of Bethel Torino commenced on October 15, 2019, in the Providence Superior Court. The courtroom buzzed with media coverage, alongside friends and family of the victims. Leading the prosecution was Assistant District Attorney Rachel Moore, a determined prosecutor known for her tenacity and commitment to justice. Moore contended that Bethel's actions were premeditated, fueled by a profound sense of betrayal and anger. She meticulously presented key pieces of evidence, including the blood-stained jacket, the gas station receipt, and matching footprints. Witnesses were called, including the jogger who discovered the jacket and forensic experts who connected the evidence to Bethel. Moore portrayed a young woman driven to the brink by her parents' choices, culminating in a violent double murder. In her defense, attorney James G. Poker, a respected lawyer recognized for his composed demeanor, argued that Bethel was overwhelmed by her parents' lifestyle and their intentions to involve her. He claimed that her actions stemmed from a moment of temporary insanity, triggered by extreme emotional turmoil. Throughout the trial, Bethel appeared somber and tearful, expressing remorse and love for her parents, insisting she never intended to harm them. Her emotional testimony resonated with some in the courtroom, including her remaining family members, who found themselves torn between their affection for Bethel and their grief for Louis and Sarah. The victim's family observed the trial with heavy hearts, grappling with the conflicting emotions of their loss, while witnessing a beloved family member stand trial for the crime. The community also closely followed the proceedings, with many discussing the case in local coffee shops and on social media. On November 5, 2019, the jury rendered its verdict. Bethel Torino was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge, known for his fairness, sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The sentencing elicited mixed reactions. Some felt justice had been served, while others believed the punishment was too severe given Bethel's emotional state at the time of the crime. The outcome profoundly affected all involved. The victim's family continued to mourn their losses, now faced with the reality of Bethel's sentence. Friends and neighbors sought closure in the wake of this tragic and complex case. life in Providence changed dramatically for everyone connected to the Torino case. The community remained shaken by the tragic events and the shocking trial. Now serving her life sentence at the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, Bethel faced a harsh reality. She was placed in the maximum security unit, where she would remain for at least 25 years before being eligible for parole. In prison, Bethel struggled under the weight of her actions and the separation from her former life. She attended counseling sessions and engaged in educational programs to help pass the time. Her case continued to spark discussions among prison reform advocates and legal analysts. Meanwhile, Jack and Beth left the public eye as they remained focused on building their lives after a very tragic incident with their friends. This harrowing tale underscores the unforeseen and devastating consequences that can arise from complex human dynamics. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Stay tuned for more stories that explore the darker facets of human nature. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant.